Well guys, here we are with my bike and the NITECORE BR35, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the functions and everything on this little light, because as I promised, a full review of this light, and that'll be the different settings, what you can set on it, and how you operate it basically. And why is this light any better than any other light? What is the key feature that NITECORE are selling with this light, and why is it so good? Well anyway, I think it's pretty good. After now using it, I was a little bit skeptical of the lumen strength because I've used higher lumen lights in the past in general, but even though the lumen lights are lower on this, they're used much more effectively. So let's roll the intro and let's dive into how this light works. So the first thing is we're looking at the NITECORE BR35, and on top of it we can see that there's 3 buttons, and these buttons, once they're on, have a blue undercolor LED coloring so you can see them at night, so they're illuminated. Now the first thing that is a little bit awkward or not intuitive to understand is changing the 3 settings, which are road, trail and city. And you need to do that from an off position. And what we do is we go in and we actually hold the button here and you go city, road, trail, city, road, trail. And when you get to the one you want, say trail, you release it and then it comes on to trail. So now we in trail and we can see that the light is on. And then we can adjust our 3 power settings by pushing this button here, which changes to 3 settings. And I don't know if you can see that, but the time, your duration of your ride is then displayed on the top screen, so you know how long you've got to ride. Let's just turn it off. To turn it off, we hold the button down and it goes off. So it's like a long press to turn it off. Now, we will change the status to city. So if we put this down here and we change it to city, we have just the bottom light which is on, and this unit has 2 lights. One uses a white card, basically like you do in photography, like when you have a flash that reflects the light downward, so you have a pool of light in front of the bike, and this works extremely well. And then if I hit the button, it switches to the front light, and then if I hit the button again, it switches to the bottom light, and then the top light, and then the bottom light, and then the top light, and then the bottom light. So what you can do is you can cycle between the pool of light, which is on now, which shows around the front wheel and the whole area. It's actually quite large. It's actually a really good feature. It's what they've designed here with this NITECORE. I was actually very impressed with how the light floods the road in front of you and is actually much better than having a spot down the road. But intuitively, you would think the opposite. So if we put it on to turn it off, and if we hold it down, then we can go road. We'll put it on road. Now on road, we just have the bottom one, and then we can cycle to the top one. So it's the same thing, and you have 3 settings on every one. But the top setting is trail. So let's just turn it off, because it needs to be off for you to select a different thing. So we'll go for trail, put trail. Now trail puts both lights on, and obviously your run time becomes less, because if you put it to the highest setting here, then I've got 2 hours 43 minutes on that setting. So these 2 buttons here changes your intensity of the light within the 3 different modes. Now, full disclosure, this light has been gifted to me to review by a camera shop Can you believe that? But this camera shop actually sells lights, and they're called Plaza Camera. And they're also offering a bit of a discount on this light. So if you want to go to their website, which is called Plaza Camera, you can put in your code Waynos10 and you can get a discount on this. Now, I've not been given any money whatsoever to review this light. He just basically was telling me about his light when I was buying some other products in the shop, because obviously I need photographic gear to make these videos. And he said, yeah, look, you know, what do you think of this light? He says, I really like it. I've been using it. He's not really a keen cyclist. He's got a mountain bike and even uses this just as a torch. And I said, yeah, look, I'll have a look at it and see what it's like. And I must admit, I'm pretty impressed with it. It uses the lumens really effectively to really illuminate the road in front of you, instead of just having basically like a torch that shines down the road, which is like the old lights that I've had that just shine a really bright light down the road. And I generally run 2,000, 3,000 lumen lights because I find the lower lumens are not effective. Well, what this device has done, they've designed the light in a way to use those lumens more effectively. And what they've done is they've put two lights in the device, one that does the old shining down the road like a torch trick, and then they put another light below, and they've used a white card, and the white card then reflects the light down onto the road. And this is a trick that they use in photography, especially with flashes. Some of the flashes actually come with a little piece that pulls up, which basically like is a white card. And what it does is, even though the light is pointing upwards towards the ceiling, some of the light hits this white card and is thrown forward towards the subject to illuminate them better than if you just had it shooting up towards the ceiling. Because in photography, we don't want the light to be pointing straight towards the subject, because that gives a very harsh light and we want a softer light. So you want to shine it towards the ceiling, but then sometimes it can be a little bit dim. So this white card's there to reflect some of that light forward onto the subject. And this bike light uses exactly the same principle, but obviously throws it down onto the road to give a pool of light in front of the front wheel. And it's incredibly wide, the light. You even kind of get fooled. You think there's a car behind you coming up because the light spreads sideways so much. You keep thinking, hey, look, there's a car coming up behind me, but it's actually not. It's because the light is thrown in a huge pool down onto the road, and you can see, like, to your side, even moving your hands on the brake levers, you can see the shadows changing on the road just from pulling your handles and moving your fingers on the top of the brake levers. So it spreads the light incredibly wide, and it makes your vision to be able to see what's immediately in front of you works very, very effectively. And also, if you want to have that old torch type light, you can either cycle between the pool light to the torch light down the road, or you can have both on, which is the trail mode, where you have the pool of light and the light shining down the road. I found in practice, you don't need that light shining down the road, obviously unless it was a really dark lit road or trail where you haven't got streetlights or anything and the light's not penetrating down the road. But otherwise, for city riding on the road or pathways, you don't need that torch light down the road. You just need to have the pool light on, which works amazingly well. Well, now we know how this unit really works. Let's just talk about the accessories that come with it. Now, it also comes with an accessory button. I haven't tried that as yet. It's just one button. So I imagine what it would do, it would just cycle through your levels when you press it. So whatever light function you're in, it will only cycle through. So I don't think it'll have too much functionality. Plus, I don't want wires coming out and then a plug into the side, because that might actually impair the waterproofing. I ride in all weather conditions, so I really give these lights a hard time. And generally, lights, when you get into heavy rain and you ride in the dirt and the muck, that's when the lights are really challenged. A lot of the lights fail. I actually had one this week on the back. It was a cheap Chinese light. I've had it for a long time, and that started playing up. And what normally happens is when they get moisture into them, they start coming on by themselves, or they stay on. I had this actually with my Garmin Varia as well that started to do that, but that light was about 4 years old, 3 to 4 years old. And what happens is then they come on by themselves and they go into different modes by themselves, and you'll be charging them, they come on, you've got them in the house and it's just sitting on your bike or getting charged, and it'll just start flashing. And yeah, then they're really buggered because they're not working as advertised, they're not performing as advertised. Well, anyway, when this light went on the back that I had a problem with, this light was also on the bike and was going through the same weather conditions. Now, this last week we had extreme weather conditions. We had significant damage to infrastructure in Perth here in WA. The electrical grid was damaged. A lot of people off. Houses were damaged. We had very, very high winds, high levels of rain, real squalls of wind, horrible conditions, damaging conditions. This light was on the bike, was in those conditions. Same with me, with my full weather gear on, and the light works still as advertised, so not affected whatsoever. Really, really good performance from this light in the wet weather side of things that normally is a real weakness with a lot of lights, even name brand lights. Now, the casing on it is like a cast aluminium. It's actually quite heavy. If you want to know the weight of it, you can go and check my initial thoughts on the thing where I weighed it on the light. And it actually has a clamp that you have to put on here. And this clamp is a slide-on device, which is quite good. So it's got like, you put it on and it clicks in and it holds on. But this is one thing I'm not too much of a fan of, because it only has two sizes for two different bar sizes. And because of that white card device, the way it works, you can't turn it upside down. It must be mounted upright. So it sticks up on the bike. It kind of looks a bit big, like you've got this big light on the bike. And I mentioned this initial review. It's probably not the most beautiful light to be on your bike, but a lot of these integrated one-piece lights do this. They stick up on the bike and they do look a little bit ugly, but unfortunately that's part of the design of these type of lights. Now with the other ones, you could mount them upside down and turn them on because they're just basically a torch light. But this one you can't, because that white card needs to be facing down. So you must run it on the top of your handlebars. And when you're actually holding the handlebars like this, then that kind of interferes with your hand wherever you mount it. You can't grab your handlebars right in the middle when you're sitting up and you're climbing on your bike and you want to hold the top bar. It sort of is in the way. So that's a little bit of a pain, but that would be the same with any of these integrated lights. So in conclusion, what do we think of this NITECORE BR35? Now, as far as integrated lights go, I have to say the performance of this light, when you're actually riding out on the road, what you expect this light to do, which is illuminate the road, does an excellent job. It's very, very good. The second thing that I reckon is a very, very big test of these lights, if you're going to use them in all weather conditions, they must be able to perform in wet weathers. For me, if I buy a light that doesn't perform in the wet, it's useless to me. I ride in all weather conditions. I use my bike as a commuter to go to work, rain, shine, whatever, I'm riding my bike. So if a light like this can't work in wet weather conditions, it's no good for me, because it's going, as soon as I get into a heavy rainstorm, it's going to play out. This light passed that test, and it also passed the illuminate the road test. Does a very, very good job. You don't even have to have it in the highest mode. It's completely unnecessary. That's how good it is. Now, the construction of the casing is really good. It's like a cast metal, and you can see it's all screwed together. It's not like a plastic or something that's going to crack. So this is not going to crack. You know, you could drop it, it would probably mark and knock it around, but I don't think it would damage. It's pretty damn tough. Now, on the negative sides of things, obviously, because it's got this white card on the bottom here, you can't mount it upside down on the bottom of your handlebars, which I normally like to do, because otherwise it will shine the light up in my face. So that's a bit of a con with a light. And the other thing that I would probably say is a con is that if you don't read the instructions, it's not that intuitive to be able to change the settings on the light. You know, as I said before, you have to turn it off to be able to change the core settings, which are your city, road and trail. Once you're in those settings, then you can change it whilst it's on the 4 different levels, but you can't change between those course levels with the light being on. So it's not as intuitive to use as you would probably think, but obviously once you get used to using it, that's not a problem. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would. I think for someone who's okay with mounting a light on top of their handlebars and they're into integrated lights where the battery's not separate. They want an integrated light that's all in one piece. They can just clip it off their handlebars, put it in their pockets and no one steals it. This light is fit for purpose. As to where you can mount it, they're limited because obviously, as I said, you need to mount it upside down. You need to mount it on your handlebars. You can't mount it anywhere else on your bike because of the card and the reflective mode that it uses. Well, anyway, guys, if you've got a BR35 out there, what do you think of it? What's your experience with it? Have you found any flaws with it? I've only had this for about 3 weeks. I found it to be a very, very good light, and I'll keep using it because it's so good. What do you guys, what experience have you guys had with this light who've had them longer? Has the light been reliable? Has it been a good light? Because then the community will know if this is a good product. And of course, if you want to snapple one of these, grab one, then shoot over to the website for Plaza Cameras and put Waynos Fotos 10, no, Waynos, should I say, Waynos 10 into the cart, and you can get a 10% discount on this light. Okay guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll see you next vid. Cheers.